because it's talking about where I'm from, and I don't relate to it. Does that make sense?
Got it. Any lowlights that we didn't share yet? Anybody got a lowlight that they...
Can I say Puerto Rican Judo again?
No, yeah, that was a terrible record.
No,
enough to really like take the life out of an album.
Being that we can all agree that Puerto Rican Judo was kind of the low light, I felt like even, when I'm listening to it, I pay attention whenever I listen to an album. I make sure I listen to it in the way that it was meant to be listened to from start to finish. I don't shuffle around.
Me too.
I don't do anything like that.
You don't play those games.
Yeah, no.
Nah, son. Nah.
Especially the first time I'm listening to a project, and listening to this, I felt like, the album was on a steady pace, and then you get this song and it just kind of plummets from there. And I kind of was really uninterested in the last bit of the album because of Puerto Rican Judo. It kind of just really turned me off.
Damn, it had that much of an impact on you.
It really did.
Wow. I would say Bug Fight is a record that kind of brought the end of the album to life. I want to get a wrap up. Everyone, Ether report card. You let me know brief summary on the album, how you felt about it, and why you're giving it this score. I want to start with Nyght, please, and then we'll take it to Mr. Producer.
At this point, I feel like I need to give extra points for experimentation and progression. That deserves it. Production was overall pretty stellar for it being that experimental. The lyrics were pretty fascinating in the Easter eggs and the subtleties in explaining very complex situations and socialistic topics. The progression of the album really took a hard hit in my what I thought about the album, so I'm gonna give it a 7.9. Just couldn't make it 8. If you'd have just cut Puerto Rican Judo off, I would have gave you an 8.2. I would have given it a judo chop. It would have been good.
I really wanted to rate this really high after my first listen through. I was really excited about the project from, being from New York and hearing something so original and so new, but so very New York. And then delving into it again a few weeks later for the Ether report, and really looking at the lyrics, really analyzing each song as much as I could within a week, and trying to really understand it, really made me appreciate it a lot more than I already had. I thought that the ideas behind it, not just New York, but the issues going on in New York, and then talking about specific styles and specific places, everything that they were trying to accomplish, they did, whether it be the beats or the lyrics or the topics. I thought that they covered them all very well. Or what I wanted was to have their song 100 on it, to have a more specific standout record. And I replaced Puerto Rican Judo with 100, and I think this album would be even higher than I'm going to give it.
Yeah. As
this album as a concept, as being able to revisit it, I know I'm giving it an 8.0, solid 8. I want more. I want to be able to go back on this project, but I want more from them, and I want the next big project.
It's funny that you say that about 100, because I heard that song and I was like, all right, that's one of my standouts, and was extremely disappointed that it wasn't on the album.
Side note, I ran into Wiki at Complex and we had a discussion about 100s. I told him that I was thoroughly disappointed after I bought the album on iTunes that 100s wasn't on it. And he literally yelled at Hawk while we were there and said, I told you we should have put it on the album. Hawk was like, oh, it didn't fit on the album. So he told me that they're thinking of releasing it on a vinyl because the record was special to them, but it just didn't fit the concept of the album because it was so traditional boom bap and they didn't want that on the album.
For me, the thing that caught me about the album was the production. I felt like it was dope, like nothing I've ever heard before. All those sounds coming in, and when they get it perfect, like when they get it right, it's perfect. Like on So Sick Stories, you get a certain vibe about it. Another thing that stood out to me was that overall feel of it, just feeling like the New York that I know. I'm an outsider though. I'm from New Jersey. I go to New York periodically, but it sounds like the New York that I see, and I think that they really captured that. Regarding a rating, I'm gonna give it a 7.3. Because the things that I didn't like about it was that it takes work to listen to it, and great music, I don't feel like it should necessarily take work to listen to, and if it is, you would want to do it. I feel like you have to listen. You got to go to Rap Genius to really get the gist of everything that they're talking about. So I gave it a 7.3 for the most part because the production was stellar. The rappers are dope. They're different personalities.
To piggyback off of that, I I completely agree, and I feel like the fact that it took me so much to like get through the project kind of outweighed my positives in a little bit. I really liked the production, and I like that. Like, it was excellent to me. It was one of my favorite points on the album. But that combined with the lyricism, it was just too much for me. I felt like, I feel like they can do more, like Mr. Producer said, but I feel like they kind of need to figure out what they want to sound like. Not that they don't know what they want to sound like already, but I feel like they're still kind of working on it. And I feel like they need to, I don't know. I kind of felt like the music was too cluttered for me. I'm going to give it a 6.7.
I mean, the clutteredness, if Guru can't...
6.7?
Yeah. If Guru can't unclutter what was going on, then that's the thing, though. We had one of the probably best engineers in the business, according to hip-hop, and he couldn't unclutter the clutter, which is...
You know what's crazy is I was actually going to give it that same grade, and then the re-listen to the reanalyzing of the topics and the lyrics, that's what bumped it up for the 8 for me.
We mentioned the asterisk as the intro track, but also Mr. Producer in No Relation mentioned it in reference to how this album felt like something that you have to go back to and continue to listen to in order to actually gather your thoughts on it. It's not something that can be digested in 1 week. And on the contrary, Majid, I do feel like art that is worthwhile is going to challenge you, whether it be a painting, whether it be an architectural landscape, whether it be a musician, rap or non-rap. Anything that challenges me and leaves me intrigued, I get excited about, including women. So I will say that this project...
Makes sense now.
This project and Wiki alone as an artist, I championed Wiki when Q and I sat here in 2012 and talked about how everyone was bragging about Absol, Joey Bad Tushy, the Underachievers. There was like this onslaught of new young MCs that came out that were revitalizing the lyrics in hip hop.
Absolutely.
And I remember always saying, y'all sleeping on Wiki. Wiki is a modern day lyrical gunslinger. And this project, to me, he nailed it. Wiki 93 was very cluttered. I'm not sure if any of you guys heard that project.
It was very cluttered.
But if you thought this was cluttered, that one was very cluttered. My personal opinion is that the imbalance between Wiki and Hawk sometimes is so obvious that it's not right for the listener to hear a Wiki verse and then you get kind of like this eccentric bridge going into a verse from Hawk that sounds kind of confusing. You never really know what he's talking about. And I've done the Rap Genius research on a lot of Hawk's verses. Even with Rap Genius, you still got to try to figure out what he's talking about because he's a complicated rapper in himself. So I will say that imbalance to me drops the score a lot because I'm so intrigued by Wiki that sometimes I'll just like kind of not care about Hawk's verse. I've been guilty of that a lot of times. Listener's fatigue plays a huge role in this album. If it took me 3 months to listen to this album and get it, I didn't expect anybody to get it in 1 week. I want to champion New York artists so bad, but my ear for music never allows me to champion the French Montanas, the Bobby Shmurdas, the artists that come from New York and are literally just adopting other region sounds. To me, this is the first artist that came from New York that I actually heard, and I was like, wow, this is somebody that sounds like what New York should sound like moving into the future. The instrumentation was there, the production was there, the lyricism was there.
Absolutely.
And Wiki is a unique character. If you ever seen him perform live, you would absolutely fall in love with him from a performance perspective. I am going to give this album an 8.2. And to me, it's certainly in my top 5, top 10 for the year thus far.
I just want to point out one thing you just said to kind of go off of that. You said, watching them perform. In doing research, we saw that this album was originally created for a live performance, and they had to go back in the studio and make in-studio,
And they also don't call themselves a rap group. They call themselves a band.
Yeah.
Because they create music live. They perform it live, and they fix it when they go back in the studio.
I've gotten to see them perform live about a little less than a year ago at SOBs. They opened up for World's Fair, and it's really interesting and captivating watching them perform because they're literally, like you said, making the music while they're performing. And, you know, Wiki is such a incredible character. You know, he hit himself with the mic and he's bleeding out of his mouth, but he's still rapping and going like 10 times as hard.
That's crazy.
And just sitting there, it's just like, they're dope to watch. Like I said, I'm definitely going to go back and listen to this again.
Again, I mean, we couldn't say the word enough. Ratking, to me, Wiki especially, unapologetically rugged, raw hip-hop, but a newer generation. I know we loved Gold Link for progression and making progressive music, and we loved Alex Wiley for making progressive music, but to me, as a New Yorker that has always loved Northeast sounding music, that grit, that even State Property, that Philly sound music, Meek Mill, they did a great job at producing an auditory landscape of what New York looks and sounds like today.